Well, I'm still hanging out at Newport Beach, still got a bit of time on my hands while I wait for Velocity to let me go and clear out my desk. So I thought I'd answer some more questions. Have had quite a few, and to be honest. Now, first up, let's have a little look here. That's the PCH in the background, by the way. Pretty awesome road. Now, let's have a little look here. So, okay, well, the first question I've got today is actually from somebody who's anonymous, and they're saying, what hair conditioner do I use? Really? Well, actually, the truth is I don't use any conditioner at all, but when it comes to a car in Newport Beach, you'd have to use Barry Maguire's stuff, because of course that is pretty awesome at the end of the day. But I do have a really great top tip. It's been handed down from my grandmother. You should always brush your hair every day 100 times at least. So remember that one. Let's have a look. Next question. Now this is a little bit more convoluted. So we've got here, hi Ed, in fact again it's somebody else who's anonymous. Hi Ed, I was wondering which cars you most enjoyed working on and which one you least enjoyed. Were the issues with some of the cars which did not make it to air? How much involvement did your mate Paul have? And who did the research into the fixes? Well, there's actually 5 questions. It's very cheeky, no wonder you didn't put your name on it, but I'll start with the first one. So, let's have a look. The cars I most enjoyed, I guess, well, probably the Darragh, the 100th car we did. In fact, it's 110 years old. That was pretty amazing. Of course, also the Cadillac from the most recent series. That was amazing fun, working out how to kind of make an Edwardian rally car, but still with the technology of that time. That was pretty spectacular. Also, the Lamborghini, that was an amazing, amazing car to work on, and a real privilege, actually. It's something I had to wait for a very, very long time to be able to do. So the second of those 5 questions, I guess, let's have a look here, is going to be the issues with cars. Now, let's have a think about that. So I guess the Capri was probably still the most embarrassing of all those cars. That was a real nightmare. But I think more recently, when it comes to actually cars that are a real fight, a real struggle, remember the Pacer? Now that was a real challenge, a really good fun challenge, to try and find a way of actually turning a car into something different, sort of transforming its lines. It did have horrible lines originally. Now, obviously the actual design process was fantastic fun, but boy was it frustrating trying to get the wrapping done just the right way to make it look good. That was really, really, really tough. Were there any issues that never actually made it to air? Well, I have to say there were hundreds and hundreds of those, but that's kind of the fun. Obviously, when we're actually making the show, you only want to see stuff that's relevant to the story, and there's going to be tons of stuff outside of that that doesn't ever make the cut. Now, a classic example of that probably was when we entered on the Maserati in the last series. Obviously, we turned that wonderful car into an electric conversion, so that was fantastic fun. Now, the cool thing is, originally, that car came with air conditioning along with loads of other stuff. Now, I really wanted to get that fitted, but also, I really wanted to have new and uprated shocks fitted to the back of the car because, of course, all the extra weight from the batteries. Unfortunately, time and budget didn't allow, so, of course, you didn't really see about the air conditioning, but you certainly noticed probably the car squatting down when we left the line. But, hey, one of those things. Now, something else I really should fess up to was a little incident we had with the Bond bug. You may remember that mad orange kind of wedge of cheese. Now, that was a fantastically fun car, the 3-wheeler. I had to drive it with my shoes off and with my left leg over the top of the steering brake. It was a pretty crazy thing. But basically, we were driving along, and as always, I'm kind of mic'd up so the sound man can hear what I'm saying, and I can see him giggling in the background, and we're driving towards the camera for a nice kind of test drivey kind of shot. But I thought I'd show off a little bit just for a laugh and try and get the car up onto 2 wheels. Obviously, by steering left a little bit, you can hook it up, because I'm obviously very heavy on that side of the car. Now, unfortunately, I'd forgotten, very stupidly perhaps, that there was a dead sort of sharp 90-degree left-hand bend coming up. So of course I'm already going up onto these 2 wheels, and suddenly realised I have to try and slow down, which is not easy to do. And then I'm trying to turn, but not really turn. I ended up kind of just rolling onto the side and sliding all the way. But of course all this happened just past the camera, so you never got to see that either. There we go, very handy. So question 4 of those 5, how much involvement did my mate Paul have? Well, of course, right from the very beginning, as soon as Paul was actually involved, he was a very busy man. But as the show progressed, we had to buy cars with more and more jobs necessary just to get the 4 or 5 we wanted to show you on camera, which meant Paul and then, of course, eventually Phil were very busy behind the scenes doing all the other jobs on the cars to make sure they were tip-top condition for when we sold them. Right, now number 5, that last question of those 5 questions, is who did the research into all the fixes? Well, we had a whole team of researchers. We also had some producer directors, PDs as they like to be called in the trade, and those guys would actually help make sure that we had a cohesive story, if you like, to tell you guys all the way through the show. And of course then Mike and I also had an input as to what was going on, and then usually on the day I'd have to come up with something off the top of my head just to make it even more exciting. Right, so next question.
Hey, Ed, you missed a spot. Can you get this car clean for the Hoag Summer Classic, please?
Of course I can, sir. No problem at all. Talk to you guys later. See you later.